My husband is actually in the industry as well, which is kind of nice because, you get that come home and while we try and put the work talk away, it's just good because when you've had a tough day or there's,
You're
some
always
crazy things going on. Yeah, he understands and can kind of talk through or talk me off the ledge sometimes, actually. So there's that. And then I have 4 children and they span from 26 years old to 9 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The 9-year-old is actually an IBTTA baby.
Okay.
San Diego 9 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember visiting that booth, but when we got home.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't remember visiting that booth.
Open bar. I think we've come a long way, but I think we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the RFPs, I think those processes, are doing a little bit of a disservice to the agencies.
Yeah.
They're so prescriptive that what's the difference between one integrator versus another or one back office provider? It comes down to price and references. So if we can move to something that's a little more based,
Yes. Yes.
So it gives vendors the opportunity to bring those innovative technologies.
Welcome to today's episode of Toll Talk, Driving the Future of Tolling with Cogitative Consulting. I'm one of your hosts, Kaylee Jakovics, and with me I have...
I'm Alex Ficari, CEO of Mojo.
And today we have a very special guest, Shannon Swank, who is the president of Cogitative Consulting. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing. I think it's amazing for the industry, and it just gives everybody kind of a fresh perspective from all of the various players in the industry. You don't get that very often. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. And we want to involve as many people as we can from the industry and, create a learning platform, sharing platform. So again, thank you. And I guess I want to start for the audience, for those watching that don't know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself more on the personal side. We'd love, to learn where you're based. What do you do like to do for fun?
Yeah. So I live in Austin, Texas. My husband is actually in the industry as well, which is kind of nice because, you get that come home and while we try and put the work talk away, it's just good because when you've had a tough day or there's,
You're
some crazy things going on. Yeah. He understands and can kind of talk through or talk me off the ledge sometimes, actually. So there's that. And then I have 4 children and they span from 26 years old to 9 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't know you had 4 children.
And the same 2 stupid people, not a second marriage kind of thing. The 9-year-old is actually an IBTTA baby.
Okay.
San Diego 9 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember visiting that booth, but when we got home.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Don't remember visiting that booth.
Open bar.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So we love it. The tolling industry took us to New York for a while from Dallas. So we were there for about 4 years. It was a great adventure. And now we're back in Texas where, I'm originally from. So it's been great.
So I'm curious, what got you to that toll booth and that booth at the trade show in the first place? Like what got you into tolling?
Oh God. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm like everyone else where you sort of just fall
stumble right into it. Yeah.
It's not like I was a little girl growing up being like, I want to be in the toll industry. No, I wanted to be a ballerina like everyone else. So, you know what? A friend of my husband's was looking for someone on the administrative side to help with their company that was growing. The name of the company was Cogitative Technologies, and that was in 1999. So I've been in the industry a very long time. So I moved from that role into sales, business development, marketing, and it's been an incredible ride. I think the toll industry can take you anywhere you want to go. So you may start out in business development and then move into project management. And so it's been great. I've loved it.
Yeah, you have a lot of experience, I know, with various different roles, obviously a lot of knowledge throughout the years that you've gained, expertise, but I guess you've also started your own company. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started out as on the integration side, so a vendor, and then our company was acquired a couple of times. It's actually now Capsh after all of the acquisitions. But when we were acquired by Schneider Electric, myself and another partner left to start PlusPass/Bank Pass, and so understanding that the tolling world was moving to electronic tolling and all electronic, we knew that customers were going to need another way to pay, especially underserved and cash-based users. So that was what that company is focused on. And then, after that, after doing that for a really long time, since 2012, about a year ago, I thought, I need a new challenge. And my husband, who is amazingly supportive, he's a girl dad, so he's very like, you can do anything. Said, you really need to get into the consulting side. You're doing a lot. You're giving a lot of information away for free, quite frankly. So he's like, you have a lot of expertise to share. So after going through a short period of imposter syndrome, I was off and running, and I absolutely love it. Very much focused on the strategy side. So where's your organization right now? Where do you want to go? How do you get there? So they're dealing with what's on their plate, their transition to all electronic or back office, whatever it is. And so in the middle of that, to say, what are we going to do next can be really challenging. So,
and is it mostly agencies that you're working with, or I guess who are some of your clients?
I'm working with a lot of private companies too. So, in the industry, and a lot of private companies that are entering the industry, I think, which is to me very exciting. When I first started in 99, there were like a handful of integrators, and, that's the way it was. Yeah. And now it's expanded so much. I mean, we have Mojo, we have a lot of payment companies, which to me is just incredible, because with that brings that innovative approach and new technologies that I think the industry desperately needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had a couple podcasts, which we'll be releasing out here soon. But one of the interesting conversations that was kind of a byproduct of that was the changes in the industry that we're seeing, and more recently, where it's not so much of evolution, but more of innovation that's causing change, rather than, here's a pain point we can't get around. We're being forced to do it. We're saying, no, we want to go change this. And so I think, a lot of the stuff that you're saying, you bring a lot of wisdom and a lot of experiences to help those agencies navigate those waters. That I think what people don't realize, especially because there's a whole slew of demographics that watch, for example, this particular podcast. And if you think about it, there are people who have been in the industry a long time and some that haven't. And I think that's why consulting and really interacting with people is so important, because the agencies have changeover. It's not the same people that have been there. People move. As we know all too well in this industry, people move around a lot. And as you've demonstrated, you had many different roles. And the same thing's happening at the agency. Within these agencies, new people, new players are coming to play, and they don't know how to navigate those waters. So I think it's fantastic that you're bringing that wealth of experience and saying, here's some of the pitfalls to look out for. Here's some of the considerations you have. This is what's worked in the past. And maybe here's something that I see that, like I being you, have seen that they're not considering. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, I think that I'm always shocked in talking to agencies that are sort of disconnected from other agencies. You think that they all talk and they know what's going on in Texas, even though they're in, New York or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, you should talk to, NTTA or whatever the agency is. They've tackled this problem. They've solved it. So I think there's an element of that as well. And with regard to the innovation, I think we've come a long way, but I think we still have a long way to go. Yeah. When you look at some of the RFPs, I think those processes, are doing a little bit of a disservice to the agencies. Yeah. They're so prescriptive that what's the difference between one integrator versus another or one back office provider? It comes down to price and references. So if we can move to something that's a little more, based in, I'm trying to think of the word.
I'd say it's
metric-based.
Yes.
Metrics.
Yes.
So it gives vendors the opportunity to bring those innovative technologies. Yeah. And with those RFPs, honestly, there's so much attached to that in terms of liquidated damages and bonding that their risk is already covered. Yeah. So, and these aren't necessarily technologies that are, bleeding edge. There's stuff that's happening, especially on the payment side in the rest of the world. So correct. Opening them up to that opportunity, I think, would be very helpful.
And that's I guess it's kind of weird to call ourselves integrators, but we are, right? So if you think about that, but your pain point about the RFPs is very real. And as you and the reason is because everybody talks, they want innovation, right? But actually implementing and I don't mean it in a derogatory sense, but recognizing the benefits for their agency, right, it's a tall order. And I understand why. And it's, again, not a negative statement, but it does take those agencies have such a huge internal customer as well as external customer base that they have to consider. And yet whether you're talking about unbanked options for, consumers or, right. integrations with AI and ML, and then who's going to be the first to take the leap. But you're right, they're not always talking. And so I think that there's inherently a disconnect or an ignorance to what's possible and how to make those changes sometimes, because even from our side, when we look at different technologies and implementing and partnering up with different back offices or whatever we're doing, it's, we can think of a million things to do. We right. understand not necessarily that we are tolling. I mean, I like to think more and more we're becoming tolling experts, but I would say as we continue to evolve over the years to come, we will learn more. But now, we understand technologies and how they work, and it's our job to say, okay, you have a pain point. And I think this is the same thing for you, Shannon. You have a pain point. I'm going to go into my toolbox. And bring out the right tools to solve this in a way you weren't thinking about. And I think that's right. what I hope would be more available through those RFPs as a vehicle, and that is a difficult challenge.
Yeah, and people don't really understand what you're saying, what the potential is or what they're even missing when they're not communicating effectively.
Yeah. And there's that aspect of risk that the agencies are always concerned with.
Of course.
When I have a client, for example, that does capital improvement projects. They handle, sort of the financial process. And we chatted about this, and I said, when you're doing a capital improvement project and that courthouse didn't get built on time, you're not in the paper right away. You might have an angry group that, but with tolling, if there's any issue with the system, you're immediately in the news.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of risk there, and I get that. But at the same time, I think that also breeds a mentality of, we can't do this versus saying, how do we get this done?
Right.
This is a great idea. Let's try and figure out a way to get this done versus, we can't do that. We've never done that before. So there is that.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said. Giving us a little bit more insight, I mean, how have you seen the tolling industry evolve throughout the years? I mean, you've been involved since 1999, so I'd love to hear your insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think electronic tolling was just an absolute game changer, not only for the agencies, but also for customers. But of course, that change also brings with it, challenges. So you look at the cash base, the underserved, the infrequent user. I live in Texas, but I might travel to Oklahoma. Well, they're changing that now, with the hubs and with interoperability.
Yep.
I have seen the industry open up more to third parties and how they can help. I think, years ago, PlusPass and BankPass, when I was with them, started in 2012, which, they were probably one of the first phone apps, to ever launch. And there were a lot of agencies that looked at third parties as competing with them. And I think now they're starting to understand, if I have 85% account penetration, how do I capture that other 15%? I mean, let's face it, everybody knows how to get a toll tag. There's no reason to spend $10 million on a campaign. How to get a toll tag in whatever city you're at.
Right.
So there's a reason why you're not getting it. Tinfoil hat person, I hate the government. I had a toll tag and I hate what you guys did with my account, whatever it is. So I think, that change and embracing those third parties. And then again, the hubs have just been a game changer for interoperability.
What do you think is the most significant challenges right now in the tolling industry? And from your point of view, how should they be addressed?
I think payments are, a huge challenge for them. And again, that's, that's part of the innovation aspect of it.
Right.
So in account management, I think agencies think, well, if I offer all of these ways to pay, not just credit card, but you can load your account with cash, you can pay with Venmo or Cash App. Like, that's great that you're offering all of those ways to pay. But I think at the end of the day, the user is looking for an account that fits their lifestyle, their budget. And so that is where we need to head, I think, in terms of payments. If you give them the opportunity to choose the account that they want, and, obviously tag is the lowest cost. So, you want, users to go with a tag. But, when you think about it, and I say this all the time, the cheapest, easiest way for me to get groceries is to get my butt in the car and go pick them up.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are days where I don't have time. So I want to do curbside,
Right.
There are other days where I'm like, it is crazy. I want delivery. So I'm willing to pay for that convenience. It's the same thing, I think, with, toll users. Some are willing to pay for convenience, some aren't. Sure. And so they should have those options.
Yeah, like someone wants a tag versus pay by plate or any of the other options, right?
For sure. I
totally understand that.
And I don't think that they should be penalized for that. I know that there are costs associated with pay by plate, but I think that we can come to some sort of middle ground for those users.
Right.
Yeah. And this kind of segues a little bit, and I kind of want to pivot in here a little bit. So you're talking about payment options, right? And to me, it's definitely one of those things that we need to be on board with across the country. We need to be able to do, e-wallet, Apple Pay, whatever, Venmo, et cetera, across the board. I think that's just going to create it easier. But here's my twofold part here. I'm curious, first off, do you see that the industry where we're headed is in a state of let's perfect what we have right now because of all the advancements we've made? Or do you see further advancements still needed before we focus on perfection? So that's part one of my question. And the second part is, how do you see your role for your company helping foster that, whatever that is?
Yeah. So the answer to the first question is, I think that we need a change of mindset. I don't think you can perfect what we have right now without a change of mindset. I think that, again, it goes back to the account management. I think that the industry needs to focus on or understand that they are a point of sale. That toll road, when you go under that gantry, is like scanning a banana at a grocery store. Yeah. And so how does that get paid? And from an agency standpoint, their back offices, there needs to be a change in that mindset as well. When a banana is scanned and they charge my account at Wells Fargo isn't reconciling anything. Oh, was that really a banana or was that an apple?
Right.
And so I think there needs to be a change in mindset in that way. And then also in terms of the way the rest of the world operates financially. Again, I can go to Starbucks and I can pay with a gift card, a phone app, a credit card, whatever it is. And I think that users change their mind constantly. Some days I pay with my app, other days I'll pay with my credit card because I'm, at Starbucks for work. And, so I think that's number one. And then number two, I forgot the question. What was
so from your company now, like what's going to be your unique proposition on how you're going to solve some of these problems or help your mission as you just kind of outlined, you think the focus should be on?
I have a lot of customer experience, direct customer experience. And with that customer experience, I think really understanding and listening to them and meeting them where they are. I think it's great when you launch a product, but if you don't know that somebody actually needs it or that's how they want to use it, then what's the point? So there's that direct customer experience and then also the payment experience. Yeah. So, a lot of knowledge in terms of, there's been agencies that said, oh, MasterCard's going to come in and take over all of this. Absolutely not. MasterCard's a brand. Yeah. They're a brand. Right. They don't even have accounts. So, there's that. So, when you're talking about interoperability as well, right now I'm chairing the marketing and communications committee. And one of the things that we're focused on is how do you communicate to customers on the agency side and on the third party side that you can use your account in Texas and Florida, eventually, in the Northeast.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of that is our challenge that I think I can bring expertise to.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And it's really on the bigger picture, it's looking about, journey mapping, customer journey experience and mapping, like understanding at each and every touch point that you're not discriminating against your audiences, how they communicate with you, how they pay with you. It's multifaceted approach. We see that not just in the tolling industry, but every day, we're mapping customer journeys and doing things for user experience at every single touch point. And I think that's something that needs to be thought out more in the industry. So,
yeah, we have agencies that say, oh, we have 100% customer satisfaction or whatever their data is. Right. And, to that, I would kind of say, how would you know you're a monopoly?
Right.
So it's great that you get a bunch of people that say, oh, I love my toll tag, but is that really what's happening when you have 75% account penetration? The other 25% is like, we hate you. Yeah. Not necessarily, but
Right. Pretty damn close. I remember I was talking to Christopher Tomlinson, who we all know, and I remember this note he said one time is just that, it's a shame that we kind of, and I'm paraphrasing, it's almost a shame that we look at the reviews and the ratings that we get from the consumer as just, that's the way it's going to be, going to Google and seeing a 2-star review. Now, and I think that's, granted, it seems like it's a far distance off because we're not selling, Chick-fil-A products or home goods products where, we're selling service, right? But the truth be told, all that negative stigma that's out there about tolling, how could we change that? And, it's a difficult thing, and how do you change that? Do we have a proper expectation that people should be singing praises? And in fact, in another conversation we just had is like, do we believe that this should tolling, and I'm curious what your vantage point is on this, especially as an integrator. Do you think it should be one of those things that people's experiences throughout tolling, or as they use tolls, should it be something that they barely notice and don't even think about, or should it be something where they're overwhelmed with positive experiences and like some of the incentives and programs that are out there? Kind of curious what your vantage point of how we interact with customers is?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think that there is, again, I continually go back to, the opportunity to present different accounts, because there are a lot of private companies that are out there that, agencies as government can only do so much.
Yeah.
Whereas there are private companies that can offer discounts or gamification for some of the stuff that they're doing. And I think there is sort of an education there for users that this is a utility. This is like paying for electric, your electric bill. And so, and again, by offering as many accounts or, different ways to pay, you then are able to segment those users that have no intention of paying, those true violators. And then the political, your political landscape, your constituents, even those that are paying that use the road, really want those people that aren't paying, that have no intention to pay, to get paid. And so I think it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, there is that convenience of getting where you need to be really fast. I love toll roads. My husband is a little bit like, sometimes, even though he's in the industry, we're not taking the toll road today. And I'm like, hop on that managed lane.
That's right. I want to get there with the least stress possible.
Yeah. Mama needs a margarita.
And Shannon, I want to say too, you are, an inspiring leader in this industry. I see you at a lot of IBTTA events, sharing your knowledge,
Speaking,
tons of sessions. So you're a very influential person. And I want to know too, not only, what groups or associations you're involved with, so IBTTA, and then also who has inspired you throughout your career journey.
I love IBTTA. I mean, I absolutely love IBTTA. I have been fortunate enough, and I really take advantage of the committees that are out there. I've been on emerging technology committees since it was formed. We've done some really meaningful work there. I'm on the DEI committee, on the Council for Women in Tolling, Revenue Assurance Task Force. So I think that it's like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it.
Yes.
So I've learned a lot. That is where I've gained my expertise. In terms of people that have influenced me, man, there are so many. I look at Patty Rubstello and Diane Cicchetti and Deb Sharpless and, Lucinda Broussard. There are so many. Tracy Brown. And it's funny, when I'm around them, I sort of turn into like a 30-year-old that sort of just got, a 28-year-old that just got into this industry. And I just soak up what they're saying, what they're doing, like a sponge, and sort of emulate that as well. So, and then I've had some amazing men that have really helped me throughout my career. I mean, my husband, obviously, I'm biased, but
we'll include him. Yeah, sure.
Right. He's a shout out to Mr. Swank. He has always been a huge supporter. And James Hoffman, I honestly don't think I would be where I am today without James Hoffman. Yeah. He put a lot of trust in me with the Emerging Technologies Committee, with what's happening with NIOP. And I feel like I owe him a lot.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, you're involved in so many committees and groups and part of IBTTA, but I wanted to know, do you have, as a young woman myself, if you have any advice for those either joining IBTTA or the industry in general that are kind of starting their career?
Get involved. I mean, get involved. Get involved in these committees. You don't have to be the worker bee on a lot of these committees. You can just seriously sit in and soak it up. I mean, you learn a lot about agency pain points. You learn a lot about what is working for them. And I think that's a big deal. I think get involved in speaking. As much as I speak, and, I'm kind of a loudmouth, and, it's very nerve-wracking. I'm doing a trend talk Well, I think I am.
Oh,
They haven't
yay.
officially
Okay.
announced,
Yeah, they haven't announced
all
it
of
yet.
the people, but I think I'm doing a trend talk at the annual meeting, and
Great.
you'll see me, 15 minutes before, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But I think the more you put yourself out there, the easier it becomes, the more confident you become. And again, like I said, you get out of it what you put into it. So put yourself out there.
Yeah. One of the things that I will just reaffirm, no matter how, out there you are, right? If you're an extrovert or introvert, I think we all, let's reaffirm for everybody watching, it is nerve wracking, no matter how outward facing you like to be, still getting into a room, especially like going to IBTTA is a very intimidating thing. You walk into a room where there's you can already tell it's not the biggest event you may have gone to in your career, but it's a very close group. And can I go sit at that table with them? What am I supposed to do? Yeah. And that's kind of one of the reasons we kind of started, Toll Talk, is to kind of, bridge that gap a little bit. But I think it is really, really important when you look at those other people out there. And Pat's done a phenomenal job in his role as, our CEO, and saying this is how you reach out. This is how you support everybody, go meet a new friend, go out there. And I think that's really, really important. And I can say if it wasn't because of people like you, especially for Kaylee, and like Rachel Bell was a great friend to me when I first started in, and bridging that gap, it's really helpful, to be out there. So, and speaking, just to kind of round that statement out, once you get out there and you start understanding it's okay, you're not. But get yourself immersed. I think that's the way to go. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And I think, I have not ever met a person that wasn't willing to help. Mary Jane O'Mara is another one of my idols. And, I sort of feel like a puppy when I'm around some of these people, because I'm just like, oh my God, I love you. And they have always been, Diane Schicchetti, one time we were on a revenue assurance meeting, and I didn't understand reciprocity. It was a new term to me after all these years. And so I was asking, and she's like, hey, give me a call after this meeting and let's chat about it, because Jersey has reciprocity with Pennsylvania Turnpike. Picked up the phone and called her. I'm like, hi, Diane. And, we had our conversation. She was amazing. And then she's like, hey, you can always call me. Like, I'm available. If I'm not available, I'll make myself available later. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. That's amazing.
Sounds like you have some great mentors, and I'm sure you're mentoring others as well. So
cool. You definitely have to give back for sure.
So to kind of, come back around, to talk a little bit about your company and anybody in this industry, as we talk about, building relationships and getting out there, staying current, right, in new tech, new trends, and what's going on. Can you share any advice on what you do, or maybe aside from payments? I mean, we talked about payments a little bit, but is there anything else that how do you stay ahead?
I think one of the things, and I've been really fortunate with agencies to, call them up and say, hey, can I get 20 minutes, 30 minutes of your time? I want to hear what's working for you? What are your pain points? What's your, your strategy, your next move? And then being able to couple that with, what's happening on the technology side. Yeah. So I think a lot of it is listening to the agencies and then being able to pair that with new and innovative technologies versus meeting with an agency and saying, here's all the things that I can do, and maybe one or none fit their needs. Sure. So I think that's the biggest aspect, is listening to the agencies and understanding what they're challenged with.
Okay. And Shannon, can you share any success stories on on any of the projects that you've worked on?
Honestly, I will tell you, my biggest success has been a volunteer position. And so it was on emerging technologies. When it first started, there was a third party and customer management work group, and I was the chair of that, especially given what I was doing with PlusPass and BankPass. And And so, after our first year, we kind of talked about why third parties, what they can do in the industry and, pros and cons. And then the second year, we did a lot of meaningful work. We developed a legal agreement because there were a lot of agencies that were like, we don't know what this contract should look like. We're used to like construction contracts, know. So there was a legal agreement that was developed by some of the attorneys that were involved in the committee. Then we also developed an interface. So PlusPass actually donated an interface and just said, hey, IBTTA, use this. And so the committee was able to sort of genericize it because there were agencies that said, we have these sort of hacked together interfaces from other fleet accounts and we need something, a little newer, especially for consumer facing. And then we were able to put together a procurement as well, because you're not really looking at an apples to apples.
Yeah.
So it's more of a application style procurement that, hey, if you want to connect to us, here are the hurdles that you need, to jump. So for me, that was a game changer in the industry, and I'm just so proud of the work that we did and the people that helped.
I have to say that's a great example. It's a great case study, and I love the fact that its origins were from. It's not always necessarily what dollars you're putting in your pocket or your company's pocket. It was, a change you've brought for the better of the organization, right? And not just the organization, but drivers on the road eventually. That's where it all will come down to, right? To people on the road.
For sure. Yeah.
That's great.
It was incredibly meaningful. And, a lot of it's in use today. Oklahoma Turnpike, Kansas, they used the interface. And so, it's getting some traction, and I was really proud to be a part of it.
That's phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Shannon. We have just a couple minutes left of today's episode, so I just wanted to touch if Alex had any more questions, if you had anything else that you wanted to share about your expertise, Cogitative Consulting, any events, anything on the horizon, or what do you want to leave the audience with today?
This is going to sound really cheesy, but I think that
I'll get some wine. Hold on a second.
Right. I think, one of the things that I always sort of tell myself is do something uncomfortable and hard, like every day. Like you have to sort of challenge yourself. And that leads to, what you were saying, Alex, like innovation and new technologies, and so putting yourself out there and doing something, hard and scary every day is just like, it makes everything worthwhile. So
I think that makes you a great leader, and that helps continue your growth as well. So
absolutely.
Great advice. Well, again, thank you so much for joining, Shannon. It has been a pleasure. It's great to have a leader with as much knowledge and experience for you to join us for our episode today.
Thank you guys. And again, thank you guys for doing this. Like, I love this. I think this is innovation for the industry and
thank you.
And, you don't get to see or hear what everybody else is doing all the time, so this is, I love it. I love it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we definitely hope we can keep bringing all the different various roles and insights to illuminate, educate, and help keep current trends going for all of us, right? And I think it's great. And I definitely hope you, as a viewer, have enjoyed today's episode with Shannon. She's a phenomenal powerhouse, and if you are going to be seeing her in Cleveland, make sure you stop by and say hi to her. And we hope you've enjoyed this episode, and you don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions for either Shannon or us, please leave them in the comments or be prepared to corner us at annual, and we'll talk to you more then. So thank you very much for joining on this episode of Toll Talk.